So as I was saying, I've been in the recruitment industry for 20 years, which I know sounds a very long time for most of you. I started off in agency and I moved internally to HR roles, but I've always been involved in talent and careers and recruitment. I've held some senior roles. So I worked in the telecommunications industry for many years and actually headed up recruitment at Optus. So I feel really excited to be here today to be talking to this audience because I think it's, it's something that's really close to my heart. Okay, so today we're talking about building an impactful personal brand. So let me talk to you just really high level what we're going to talk about. We're going to start with how to build rapport. We're going to talk about how we communicate to people and how we do start to build that rapport. We're then going to start to talk about our elevator pitch, which may mean something to you at the moment. It may not. By the end, I'm hoping it will mean a lot. So we'll start to talk about how we develop an elevator pitch. By the end of today, you probably won't have your elevator pitch, but you'll certainly have the makings of a really strong outline and a good framework. Then we'll talk about how you can adapt your elevator pitch to different audiences. And I know that doesn't make much sense at the moment, but hopefully by the end you will. Now, also, if you have questions as we go, please feel free to put up your hand or even come up mute. I'm absolutely happy to answer questions as we go. I prefer to do that while the topic is hot rather than wait to the end. So feel free to interrupt. Okay. Let's get started with communication. So when we're talking to people, we're using more than the words that we're saying. I don't know, can we, maybe in the chat, can anybody tell me what they think, what the other things that we're saying when we're using, when we are communicating? Because it's not just the words. Does anybody have any sense of what else that might be?
Body language.
Body language. Perfect. You're at the top of the class, because that's absolutely. And is there anything else?
Someone said eye contact on the chat.
So I would say eye contact is very much part of body language. Does anybody else want to have a go? Think about when you're talking. It's the words, it's the body language.
The sound when you speak.
So it's the tone in which we're using. You're absolutely right. And interestingly, the words that we say are only 7% of the message that we're conveying. So when we're talking to people, over half of what we say, in fact, 55% is the body language that we're using. So that is your eye contact. It's the way you're using your hands. It's how open your stance is. If I've got my hands closed, I'm much, like closed up compared to if I'm open and using my hands. It's also the tone in which we speak. So the volume, the pace, all of those things, 38%. So, we're not talking about interviewing today, but a really good example here is when people are going for an interview. So I'm just letting Paige in. Oh, thank you. When people are going for an interview, I would never say that you should use a telephone interview over a video interview, because you're losing over half of what you're saying. So you're never going to be in an advantage. So really important for us, because we're talking about how we can convey our personal brand and how we're going to verbalize that to people. So we just need to be mindful that it's more than just the words, because I hear people often say, oh, I can't believe I said that, and I can't believe I didn't say that. Actually, that's only 7% of what you actually did say. So you're actually probably okay. Okay. Now, with that in mind, we're going to move to how we start to build rapport. And this iceberg example is or illustration is really nice for us to think about in this regard, because as most of you probably know, most of the iceberg actually sits under the surface of the water. When we're talking about rapport, the stuff that sits above the water is the stuff that people see. So when we are behaving, it's the things that we're saying. That's the people can see and they can hear. So their senses can relate to us. The stuff that sits below the water, that's the stuff people can't see. And that's the stuff that's internal to us. You know, it's our beliefs, it's our values, it's what really drives us internally. So when I think about this, like the intent ultimately when we build rapport is eventually to lower that waterline. But let me ask you some questions. What do you think it would look like if we lowered that waterline too fast? So when we're talking to people and building a relationship, what happens if we lower the waterline too fast? What are some of the things that you think? And again, feel free to come off your mute. Does anybody want to have a crack?
I think Paige Rolton in the chat said oversharing.
Oversharing. Yes. And so and Paige, talk to us about, so you're oversharing, you're absolutely spot on. So what do you think that the impact of that is? If you start to overshare, do you think it's easy for people to start to build rapport, or do you think that that dilutes the ability to do that? No?
Definitely dilutes. That's what Paige said in the chat.
Sorry, what was that again, Lena?
So in the chat, Paige agrees with you. She said it definitely dilutes.
Yeah, it really does dilute. It's almost like you're going to be too full on for people. They'll be like, wait, she just overshares with me. It's too much. It's too much. So let's flip it. And what would it look like if you don't lower it over time? What do you think the impact of building rapport then is?
Maybe they didn't know you well, like enough information to get to know you. Yeah, so it becomes very surface, doesn't it? It's like you can't build a deeper relationship. So the relationship never evolves. That's absolutely right. So what we want to be doing is we want to start to think about this when we're starting to build rapport, because we're talking how that links to our brand. And it's really important because when we're doing that, we want to relay that to people. We want to start building a rapport. Okay. Let's talk about personal brand, and we're going to talk about, developing an elevator pitch for you, which is very linked, and I'll explain to you in a little bit how they're linked. Before we get started though, let's talk about some brands. I'm thinking that you probably know this brand. What comes to your mind when you think of Google? Does anybody want to have a go?
Excuse me, Catherine. Are you showing something in the slide?
Yes. Can you not see that?
Yeah, I think it's stuck in the first one.
So can you see the Google?
No.
No.
So no.
The first slide of your presentation. I think you are sharing another, maybe the screen that is not the presentation.
Let me have another look.
Yes, please.
Thank you for pulling that up, because I was having a lovely old time showing you my slides that you're not seeing. Let me try this. Can you see that now?
No.
No.
I wonder why. I'll go to my desktop.
Yeah, we can see the desktop, but
Yes.
You can see the blue?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes.
But probably if you click on presentation at the bottom of the slide.
Yeah.
That one, like that.
So can you not see that either?
That one? Oh, and show it's already. Okay, I think we will be able to see it from here.
I just really want to go back just to show you something, because so okay. that is the iceberg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can see that. Yes.
Yeah, and you can see that now. Thank you for highlighting that. I didn't realize that you couldn't see. I'm not sure why. And that is the visual communication.
So you see how that's over 50% of is the visual signs, is the behavioural stuff. So then the vocal or the tone is the 38%, and then the verbal or the words is 7%. Can you see that?
Yes.
Great. I'm glad you actually got to see that. They were the two important ones. So let's now, with that in mind, you know this brand is Google. Talk to me about some of the things that you think of when you, what do they represent? What comes to mind when you think about the brand Google?
The biggest search engine.
The biggest search engine. And what sort of emotions or what sort of words would you put to Google?
Anything that we want to find, we don't know.
Right?
Information.
Information. Excellent. Yeah.
I think American.
American. Yeah.
We have some more answers in the chat.
Oh, great. Lena, can you just talk to me about what's in the chat?
Yeah. So Paige Alton also said that it's known worldwide, it's big money, and it promotes information sharing.
Yeah, and it's global. And I, like, for me personally, I think of innovation, because when Google came, like, they changed the way that we sort of like were able to access information in the world. Let's talk about this one. Assuming you can see that, it says Coca-Cola. What sort of things come to mind when you think of Coca-Cola? When you think about the brand? And Lena, again, I'll get you to just tell me if there's anything in the chat.
It's a popular, an American, an unhealthy.
So global?
Yeah, definitely very worldwide known.
Yeah. Did you say unhealthy? What else have we got? Big money, promotes information sharing, been around a long time. See, for me, when I was looking at it, I was like, for me, it feels like fun and it feels like summer. Okay, so there's lots coming out, so this is great. Let's talk about another one. Let's talk about this one. What sort of things come to mind when you think of this brand?
I think I just want to share what Paige said about Coca-Cola, and this was quite important. And she said it stays current with product development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good, actually. And I think they have, because they've really evolved over time.
Mm-hmm.
Emma said it's her kid's favourite. My kids have only ever had this twice, and actually once was on the weekend. So what other things? Like, so for me, I think of it's cheap. Like, it's actually really affordable. So it's convenient, it's quick, it's easy. Courtney says it's fries and hamburgers. But see, the brand itself for me is like when we're traveling, we can get it. It's really accessible to everybody. That's right, Paige. So we're starting to get a sense of these brands. Let's look at one last one. So Qantas, what are you thinking when you think of Qantas? Travel. Australian. Be nice to be able to travel again, wouldn't it? Australian brands supporting travel. And anything else? See, for me, it's like reliable, it's safe, it's quality, high quality. That's right, for me too, Paige. And when I think of an airline, I want them to be safe and I want them to be high quality because I want to be alive when I get to my destination. The point here is brands spend billions of dollars a year on this stuff. Like, it's really well thought out. The way that they do their logo and all of those things are really important with the way that they convey the emotions that they want to give to people. People do the same thing. And if we look at this, we'll have a look at, does anybody know who this is? The guy that owns Virgin.
Yeah. Does anybody know his name? Very famous.
Branson?
Richard Branson.
Exactly, Richard Branson. Now, I don't know if anybody's read his book or just knows him. He's very famous. What sort of things come up when you think of Richard Branson? Does anything come to mind for you?
Money.
Money. Yeah, he's a really wealthy man. He owns an island, doesn't he? Anything else? The thing about Richard Branson, he's very charismatic. He's an entrepreneur and he's a risk taker. And you're right, he's got excessive amounts of money because he has been very, very successful. But something that you may not know, and it sounds like people aren't that familiar with him, whilst he's always stayed true to his brand, he's actually been bankrupt 3 times before he's become successful. So he's tried 3 times and then finally he actually did what he needed to do. But he stayed true to his brand. He was a risk taker. He was an entrepreneur. He's charismatic. He's maintained those things. Let's look at this next person. Do you know who that is?
Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama. What do you think when you think of Michelle Obama?
Humble, successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Female empowerment, honesty, integrity, Paige has said. Pallavi, you're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing. So I think she's very articulated. She's always well collected. She's calm. I think that's all it. That's what she's created, this amazing brand. Let's look at the next person. Do you know LeBron James? He's obviously a basketballer. Do you girls know him?
Name's quite famous. Very
Very famous. Probably the most, arguably one of the absolute best basketballers that has ever played. So, you know, when I think of him, like I think he's skillful. There's longevity. I mean, he's had a very long career, but he's resilient. Like the man is able to play, you know, basketball game after game. And, you know, even if he's defeated, he can pick himself up. Ambitious, hardworking. Let's look at this final one. Do you know who that is?
Nelson Mandela.
Yeah. And what do you think, does any words come to mind there?
A leader.
A true leader, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Hardship.
Hardship, resilience, great leader. What else? Freedom, equal rights fighter, like encouraging, kind, mentally tough, love towards people, consistent, like he was always consistent. When you think about these people, do you think that their brands are sustainable? What do you think? Do you think that they've been authentic and lasted over time? Yes, because they're true to how they are. Exactly. So that's perfect, Paige. A lovely segue into my next question, which is who here, and put your hand up or write in the comments, who here has a personal brand?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Not sure.
Wouldn't like our social medias be our own personal brand?
It certainly adds to it. I'm going to challenge all of you and say you all have a personal brand. Everybody has a personal brand. How do you know what your personal brand is? It is ultimately, it's what people say about you when you are not in the room.
So you're right. Was it, Alison, did you say about the social media?
Yeah.
Yeah. All of those things, the way you present yourself in person, but also online, really creates it's adding to your personal brand. I did a really silly thing once when I was presenting to hundreds of students at university in a lecture, and we were talking about personal brand. And you know, I have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. At the time they were younger, even still, and I was explaining to them about your social presence really adds to your personal brand, and you want it to be aligned to your brand. And we were talking about you know, social media, and they said to me, what is your brand? And I was like, oh, well, let's have a look at my brand, because I know what my brand is. Like, I don't have much of a social life. I am with my family all the time. You know, I work really hard, and those things sort of add to my brand. Well, when we had a look at my Facebook, because I never posted pictures of my children or my family, so the only thing that was up there was me having a glass of wine with friends. So we'd go out for lunch and I'd have a glass of wine, and then, you know, whatever. And it was really interesting because the only time I posted, which was only a few times a year, was me out socializing. So when we were talking, it was so unvetted and it was such a silly thing to do. But I explained, like they were saying, so what's your brand? And I was like, well, you tell me. And then I was like, oh, because somebody said, you're a party girl. And I was like, it couldn't be further from the truth. So you're right, the social media is really important, and doing a little audit on that can be really worthwhile, because what was being presented, how I was presenting myself online was certainly not who I was. It was not represented in me. So it's really important to do that. But at the end of the day, you need to start to, and Paige, yes, we all do have one, because it literally is, when you think about when you've left the room, what are people saying about you? And is it actually what you want them to be saying? Let's, I'm just going to flip, and I'm hoping you're going to see this. So can you please let me know if you don't see this, but I'm going to flip to a video. Can you see the video?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. All the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. but it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products. Nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology.
Okay, I'm going to stop there, but that is the basis of what we're going to start to talk about. Now, can you see my screen again, the managing my personal brand?
Yes.
Right. I just wanted to keep checking that so that we're on the same page. So why do I show you that? Well, you know, we've established that we have a personal brand, and, you know, I'm urging you to go and do a little social audit and, you know, look at what's being presented to you online. And, you know, you'll have different mediums to do that. LinkedIn, maybe, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. But what we need to start to do is articulate our brand, articulate what we want to, what we believe we stand for. Because at the end of the day, we want our brand to resonate. We can't just articulate what we want it to be. It has to be what it really is, because we want it to be authentic. We want it to be genuine. At the end of the day, a house cannot stay standing if it doesn't have strong foundations. So what we want to do is understand what our brand is and then articulate it into what we call an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch ultimately is your value proposition, your personal value proposition. And that's what I want to start to develop today with you. Understanding that we're talking about our why and what we're passionate about. Now, remember I said to you, when we communicate with people, what happens is invariably people get very tied up with the words that they're saying. So what I don't want you to do today is get your elevator pitch, develop your pitch, and then go, right, I'm going to learn that off by heart. Because what will happen is, one, you'll do it to the wrong audience, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But two, you'll forget, or you'll stumble, or you'll get nervous and your mind will have a glitch, and then you'll derail. What I want to do is show you a really neat little structure, and then you can adapt it and use it depending on how the conversation's going. But in saying that, I want to start to craft one so you can start practicing where the information goes, so you can finesse it and massage it. There's a really simple structure. Now, like I say, we're not going to memorize every word, but what I do want you to do is remember this structure, and it's super simple. So there's four parts of it. When we're talking to people and we're developing our elevator pitch, we talk about our brand statement, and we're about to develop our brand statement. We're then going to talk about the present. We're going to talk about the past, and then we're going to talk about the future. So when you're going into a conversation and somebody asks you, oh, so Catherine, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself? That is my prompt to talk about my elevator pitch, to use my elevator pitch. Now, I have to say, as a consultant, I use my elevator pitch at least once a week. But you also, when you're going into the workplace or starting to do job interviews and all those things, you'll be using your elevator pitch a lot, because you'll be networking with people, you'll be telephone interviewing with people, you'll be interviewing with organizations. When you start a job, you'll be meeting your team, you'll be meeting senior leaders. All of those sort of situations require an elevator pitch, but you just need to learn how to massage it. But what we want to make sure is that you understand, we say our brand, our present, past, and future. And that's what we're going to work on. Okay. Let's start with developing your brand statement. Now, this is something really simple, but really powerful. Now, we do it in 3. So we say a career adjective. We then say our level of it, or our area of expertise, and then our level. So for example, I might say I'm an enthusiastic career coach. You might say like you're a seasoned technology student, for example. I want you to spend a few minutes thinking about what your brand is, and I want it in those 3 components. And then I'm going to ask people to share, and you can just write those in the chat. But I want you to have a career adjective, the area of expertise, and a level. And so your adjective is things like accomplished, motivated, passionate, seasoned, excited, versatile. All of those sort of things are your career adjective. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to write down what your brand statement. And let me know if you've got any questions.
With writing, Catherine, are they should the students send them on the chat, or just keep them with them?
I'm going to ask people to share them on the chat. So yeah, just start putting them up the chat if you want to. Area, yes, it is supposed to say area of expertise. Sorry, that's a typo. Ooh. You guys are getting it. Great, you too. So if you haven't finished, I'll give you another minute, but I'm really keen to start to see them on the chat. But the people that have shared are nailing it, absolutely nailing it.
They sound amazing.
Yeah, they really do. See how powerful it is? That alone, to say that I am a, and then those, they're a motivated laboratory scientist. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just give you another couple of 30 seconds to, if you want to share, because then we'll move to the next bit, because we're going to start to build this elevator pitch. Anybody else? Well, you can keep doing it anyway as we go. Enthusiastic. Yeah, wow, Emma. It sounds like an exciting exciting industry to be working in. Okay, let's now move into how we build our brand. Remember, I'm just going to go back. Remember, that way. Remember, we're doing brand. So we've now got our brand statement. I'm a passionate nutrition facilitator. I'm a seasoned data analyst associate. That is our brand, right? So we've got our brand statement. Now what we're going to do is start to build what we're doing at the moment, what we've done at the past that might be valuable to an employer or to people that we're talking to, and then about our future. So let's go through to talk about that. Here is an example. Now, let me say I've done an example that is like an experienced person at work. Why have I done that? Well, I've done that because in the past when I've run these sort of sessions, I've done one that could be, for pitched at the right level. And then what happens is people copy it. And it's a nightmare because then everybody's got the same elevator pitch. And I want you to start to learn how to do it yourself, because you need to be able to do it on the spot and start to finesse and massage it, like I said. Let me just explain how this elevator pitch works, and then I'm going to talk to you about how we can tailor it to your level. So I'm a seasoned marketing professional with more than 15 years experience in the financial services industry. In my current role, I'm responsible for the execution of creative campaigns and have managed campaigns with up to $5 million budgets. My prime responsibilities are email marketing, content marketing, and social media management. I bring excellent organizational capabilities, strong relationship management skills, and the ability to handle multiple projects to budget and deadline. I started my career as a marketing graduate and got exposure across all facets of marketing. I was fortunate to be accepted into a formal graduate program and spent 2 years rotating through their marketing areas. This is where I developed my strong organizational skills and love of social media as a vehicle to reach target audiences. Now the future. I'm currently keen to develop my leadership skills and manage larger budgets and projects. That's why I'm considering external opportunities to my current role. So you see how powerful it is when you package it up really nicely. You've talked about your brand, you talk about what you're doing currently, what you've done in the past, and then what you do in the future. Now, how do we adapt it to you guys? Well, there's a few different ways, and that's why I don't like to be too prescribed, because if I do that, then people just start copying it. When I was at Optus, I rolled out a career program, and as part of that, I gave everybody a template for a cover letter, and then suddenly everybody used my cover letter. They just changed their name because they thought, oh no, I've got all those skills, that's my cover letter. And so it was a nightmare. So I learned my lesson, because I need you to have your own flair in this and make it your own. So we've decided we know our brand, and we don't need more than what we've got now. So I'm a passionate nutrition facilitator. Currently, and what are you doing? Are you doing some work? You're studying? I'm currently studying XYZ at university. Now, because we don't have prime responsibilities, we're going to talk about our passions. So remember, Simon Sinek in the video was talking about the passion. We want to talk about our passions. So I am really passionate about, and you want to think about 3 different areas. I'm passionate about X, Y, and Z. Then we want to talk about, I'm still in the current, I bring, and then you talk about the 3 top skills that you've got. It could be, I'm a really good researcher. I've got good, excellent organizational capabilities. It might be that you've got excellent communication skills. You can talk to people of all different levels or of all walks of life. You know, it's a whole lot of different things that you think, but I want 3 strengths. So see how we've started. We've got our brand. We've now got what you're currently doing, what you're passionate about, and what your 3 top strengths are. Then we can talk about in the past. Now, if you've got any sort of work experience, you know, I've been working at McDonald's while I've been studying, where I have developed XYZ, and you can talk a little bit about that. You might say not have any work experience, or you might have worked as a tutor. I've done some casual tutoring whilst I've been at university, and I started that while I was at high school. And you could talk a little bit about that, what you learned. What you could also do, if you go, I haven't really got any experience, but what I did was I went to I went to the Forest High School. So you could talk about, I went to the Forest High School, and what, the subjects that you did really well in, where you realised where your passion was to get into the type of degree that you're doing now. As an example, but it's something that you did in the past. And then we talk about the future. So I'm really excited to be looking for the type of job in it, or I'm really excited to be, studying whatever it is. But we're sticking to the formula: brand, current, past, future. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't actually matter what goes in there. It could be a whole range of different things, depending on your background, where you're at the moment, what you've done in the past. What I'm going to do, well, I'm going to firstly ask if there's any questions, and then I'm going to give you 10 minutes to actually start to develop your pitch, because then at the end, I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, and I'm going to get you to work with a partner so that you can share and get feedback, because that's the gold. That's where the gold is. Does anybody have any questions before we get stuck into that? Is it making...
Do you have any more suggestions, or how do you pick what would be 3 or so good skills to choose from? Because I don't know if some of the more traditional analytical sort of skills would be my strongest suit, but I know I'm definitely quite good at interacting with customers and that side of things.
So that's perfect. So think about, so I'm just having a look here, and you're an enthusiastic environmental health trainee. So what sort of things would you be doing in that role? Think about it. So dealing with people is absolutely important. So I think that I've got a really strong customer orientation could be one, for example, or, I believe in, providing excellent customer service. What else would you need in your sort of industry? What's in the type of jobs that you were doing? I imagine like organizational skills.
Yeah, there's organizational skills. There's also the need to be able to follow legislation and to follow very strict processes for collecting samples and processing documents for courts.
And are you good at doing that?
Yes.
So already you're starting to say they're very relevant strengths, but they're actually strengths that you have. Does that make sense? Because again, we're trying to make this really authentic. So if I didn't have any initiative, I'm not going to say my strength is initiative, because I'm going to come unstuck and I'm creating a brand that's not true. Remember, there's strong foundations in the house. It's not going to stand up. But if you've got those things, they could be your strengths. Now, you don't have to actually limit it to 3, but there's this thing called the power of 3, and there is power in giving 3, and you don't want to be there going, oh, and I'm really good at relationship management and interpersonal skills and communicating and initiative and pride. Like it just gets, you're not taking me on a journey anywhere, right? But the ones that you've explained, so you might want to say, I have a really strong orientation to provide excellent customer service. I am equipped to be able to follow legislation and strict procedures. Do you know what I mean? So they could be, that's 2, and then you could do your 3rd one. Do you see what I mean? Does that help?
Yeah, thanks.
Is that helpful, Courtney?
Yep, thank you.
Perfect. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, because I'm going, and I will still be here, but I am going to give you 10 minutes to create your structure. Now remember, brand, current, past, future. And there's no right or wrong here. This is about you and what's true to you. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and then I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. So I'll give you 10 minutes. I'm going to go on.
Are we able to ask more questions? I just wanted to clarify a little bit more. I understand that strong customer orientation is definitely something I've seen listed in job applications before, so it is something employees look for. But I have been working in retail for several years, and I do see myself as somebody that really wants to assist customers and has a high level of patience. And I understand that all these communication skills are very useful, but seeing the words strong customer orientation, I don't know if I just haven't been around the professional industry for long enough, but those words just, I don't quite connect with them, and I don't quite see them and how it interacts with the skills that I have. Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm talking, but no, you can't hear me. So don't use them. They have to be true to you. That was just an example. I mean, you know you much better than I do, obviously, right? So you just have to say what's true. If that doesn't resonate, then find something else that does. And again, it may be like looking in the job descriptions and stuff, like job ads is a really good place to see what's important to them. But you have to pick your top 3, right? And it may not be that, and that's okay. You'll talk probably about in the past, I've worked in, you know, I've been working in retail. You might say, you know, where I've had to deal with a lot of customers. So that brings in that. What I've learned there was, you know, to really like strong resilience and being able to remain calm, you know, whatever that is, right, for you. It's going to be different.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, excellent. I'll work a bit.
Text?
Yeah. Thank you. I'll try and work a bit more with some of that then. Thank you.
And don't stress, because we're all going to share. So don't, you'll get feedback.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to finish it off. Okay, let's all come together. I'm now going to put you into breakout rooms. I'd like you to share with a partner. So like, be generous with your feedback to each other, because this is really important that we start to develop our pitch, because as I say, you're going to need this a lot. As you start to think about developing your networks and having interviews and talking to organizations, and even when you start working, you'll need to have this up your sleeve, because people will constantly ask you, oh, I've heard about you, so tell me a bit about yourself. Or, oh, I've heard about you, so tell me about what you've done. This is your elevator pitch. So we just want to make sure that we're starting to develop it. And getting feedback from a trusted colleague is a really great way to start to, make sure that what you're saying is what you want it, what you're conveying is what you want to be actually conveying. So I am going to do this breakout rooms, unless anybody's got any questions before we go. No? Let me go. Unless it's not going to let me do my breakout rooms. Carla, can you see how to do that? Because I know that you're co-hosting. It's not letting me do it, because I go to breakout rooms.
Have you already created them? Because I don't have the option here.
No, they just automatically do it. Breakout room.
No, it's not here. I cannot see it in my...
Under more, see where it says breakout rooms? If I can't do this, I'm going to get a couple of people to share.
Yes, probably we can go ahead with that, because I cannot see it anywhere.
Yeah, it's under the more, but for some reason it's not doing that. That is okay. Is there two brave people that want to have a go? Does anybody want to put their hand up? Because remember, this is a safe environment and you can get really good feedback from us.
I could try if I can get my camera working.
Right.
Hey. Okay, so I haven't actually fully pulled it together. How much do you want? Like the whole pitch so far?
Yeah, just give it to us. Because, at the end of the day, your pitch will probably only be about 30 seconds.
Yeah, even less if you've only got half of it done. I am currently studying environmental health science, and I'm passionate about ensuring community health and safety through education and legislation.
Your strengths? I have.
My strengths include strong customer engagement skills, a passion for a passion for maintaining high standards of results.
Yep.
And a confidence in following policies and procedures.
Okay.
See, it's that skill thing that tripped me up, because I feel like trying to find the right adjectives to describe the right skills is going to be something that might take a bit of work. But in the past, I've worked in the retail industry and the Australian Defence Force, which have created both excellent communication skills, a teamwork ability, and high standards of work results. And in the future, I hope to further assist the local community and hope to expand on potential leadership positions.
Do you have any feedback for Courtney? What do you think? Does anybody want to give us some feedback? Well, let me, since I'm not shy about giving feedback. I think it doesn't flow yet, but that's because you haven't finished it, and that's okay. I think the structure is there though. I think in terms of the past, I think you could maybe give us a little bit more there, because you've actually got some good experience to draw on. So you've done retail, but you've also done the defence. And I would have liked to have understood what you've done in defence, because maybe that could have linked through to why you're doing environmental stuff. And maybe even you left defence because blah, 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 to pursue X, Y, Z. And then that leads really nicely into your future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Those are actually some good points that I didn't consider, because in defence I did do cooking, which is quite tied into health, because health inspectors obviously look at restaurants and the food industry. And I did leave so I could start the degree. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well done. I think it's just now. So what I would suggest with where you're at, you have to actually start to make it flow, right? Because you are thinking a lot externally, and you need to think internally. So, because you're making lots of that sort of sound. So once I would start practicing it. Practice it in the shower, in front of the mirror, with your earphones in, walking down the street, whatever. But just starting to practice, because what will happen is the words will start to flow, and how you're going to package them up. And like I say, it's not about memorizing that, but it's about knowing how that feels when you're talking, because as we'll talk in a little while, the way that you change, you'll need to change that for your audience. And so that's why we don't want it to be too over scripted, but I want you to start to hear how it all fits together. Great. Thank you for sharing. Does somebody else want to have a share? We've got time for another one. I know Alison said she would, but she's not finished. Anybody else? This is your chance to get experts from all of us feedback.
I can give it a go. I just haven't like finalized the future, but I guess like I've been given 10 minutes, so it's not going to be perfect.
That's great. Can you please turn on your video so I can see you too?
Yeah, just me and my minutes a bit. Okay. How do I do? So, I am an ambitious medical science student in my 3rd year of university. As I'm in my final year, I'm currently spending my time between theoretical study and the physical application of sorry, I live next to an intersection. The physical application of said study. The tasks I'm currently responsible for are understanding and following lab procedure, writing scientific reports, and the time management of participating in these activities. My passion for science developed in my senior years of high school, so much so that I sought out extracurricular classes in the closest major city. This opportunity allowed for the development of my fundamental scientific knowledge. The next step in my career plan would be to further develop my professional skills and my communication skills to allow for me to participate in a Master's of Research. And yeah.
Okay, what does everybody have? I can see that Courtney's generously giving some. What about others? Because Courtney has said perfect list of skills. I've been writing a few things down. What does everybody else think?
I can say that it's very well articulated.
Yeah. Well structured, very detailed. So my favorite, and one thing I wanted to highlight to everybody actually between the two, did you notice how different the tone of voice was between the two girls when they were articulating it? I felt like the second one was much more formal compared to the first one. Did everybody notice that? That's because the tone of voice that we use, it needs to be, again, we're making it authentic. It has to be true to yourself. You know, I use lots of words like, I love that, I'm passionate about that. Oh, and, you know, all those sort of things. I'm quite gushy in the way that I speak. And I'm like that normally. My husband would never use those words about what he does for work. I don't even think he'd ever use those words about me. Never, and I'm married to him. Never mind about something that he does for work. So you just need to be really mindful that you have to think about the right tone of voice. So that I just wanted to pick that up because that was a really good example between you both. And one of the things that you said was, you know, and said study, like I'm doing physical with regards to said study, which again is quite formal speak. So just be mindful if that's the way you speak, that's perfect. Yeah. I agreed that I thought your list of skills were really good. Can you just repeat the past stuff for us? I just want to hear that again.
Yeah, the past, I've put my passion for science developed in my senior years of high school, so much so that I sought out extracurricular classes in the closest major city. This opportunity allowed for my development of my fundamental scientific knowledge.
Lovely. I thought it was nice because you're taking me on a journey. It's a story, right? And you're drawing on the things. This is why I do what I do. And so then I get this sense of she's really passionate about what she does. She really feels like she's made a very clear choice in doing what she's doing. I thought it was really lovely. I thought it was really nice. And then you segued into the future really well. I know you said you hadn't quite finished, but I think you've done a good job.
Thank you.
Does it feel comfortable to say it?
Yeah, no, it does. To me, it feels like it just flows, like it just comes naturally to say.
Yeah, lovely. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Any other, we're going to move on, but I just wanted to get any more feedback from anybody. Did anybody struggle or find it really easy, or how are you feeling? Are you feeling confident that although you may not have your full structure of your pitch, that you can go and you know now how to pull it together? I just want to get a sense. Courtney said, is it just the state? Oh, that was regarding Alison. Is there anything from anybody else? I'm getting cricket, so I just want to make sure that you're right. Nothing? Just double checking there's no hands up. No? Well, if there's no questions there, I'm going to move on. Just a really quick recap on this. And like I say, I'm mindful that you probably don't have your elevator pitch, although some people already do, right? Because I've just heard two really strong ones. You may not have your elevator pitch completely developed right now, but I'm hoping that you've got the bare bones of it at least. Let me also say what you're creating now will form the basis of what you use for the rest of your career. Now, it will change and it will develop and it will, things will become redundant, but the same structure will always be there for you. So if you remember brand, present, past, future, you will always be set with your elevator pitch. Now, your elevator pitch should only take about 30 to 60 seconds. In an interview, it's going to be longer because they'll want you to go into a bit more detail, particularly about your past. But it shouldn't really be more than 60 seconds. But I think the rule of thumb, 30 to 60. Think about literally if you met somebody in the elevator and you're going down and they say, so quickly tell me about yourself. You've got 30 seconds to do that. Make sure that you're doing it in a compelling and authentic way. I've said that so many times, so I think you get that. But it's always going to be some sort of iteration of, so tell me about yourself when you use your elevator pitch. What brings you to be here today? Tell me a bit about your background. All of those questions are asking for your elevator pitch. Now, just a few last things. Be authentic, use your own language, your own tone of voice. Think about what makes you passionate. What do you choose apart from other things? What is your superpower? And that's what you bring to the table. So that's going to be your strengths. How do you want to be remembered? And just honestly, just keep it simple. That really simple framework will work wonders. With that in mind, though, I've been harping on. So you've got your elevator pitch, or at least, you're developing it so you'll nearly have it finished. What, though, when you're presented with different people? So I think, with the one that Alison gave us, perfect for some audiences, but would it be perfect for every audience? If you imagine meeting another graduate or student at a barbecue and they said, oh, I've heard about you, tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you think it's going to be the same content that you would if you met a CEO? Tell me about what you think. What's going to change and what's going to be different? Or are they going to be the same?
I mean, I'd probably be a little less formal about it.
When you're talking to the CEO or talking to the
other people, yeah.
Because you'd seem a little bit silly, wouldn't you, if you say, wow, hi, I'm Catherine, I'm a passionate career coach. You would seem a bit silly to start like that if you were in a casual barbecue or casual setting.
Absolutely.
But you can still use the same structure, because you could say like, oh yeah, I'm Catherine and I've just finished studying what I've learned, I've been really excited to be learning about XYZ, and I've really found my passion as that stuff. In the past I did a little bit of work in XYZ, or in retail I was working at McDonald's, but now my future, without saying that, you say now I'm looking to get a job in PwC and work in consulting or something. Do you see, you're still using the same structure, you're just adopting it to the audience, because you wouldn't be casual like that if you were talking to a CEO, right? If you were talking to your manager, a new manager, you just get a new job, what do you think? Do you think you would adapt that too much, or do you think that that would be the right thing?
It depends. Like, if I'm going to be working closely with them, I'd try to make it a bit more friendly, for sure. Like, if we're going to be in constant contact, but the content and such would be the same.
See, and the because your manager you are there actually to make your manager look good, right? So you want to give them as much detail about what you're bringing to help them be successful. So you want to talk about your passions, you want to talk about the things that you know your strengths, you want to talk more about your background and give them more detail, because that's going to be of interest to them, because that's going to help them shape what you're going to be able to do for them in within the team. If you're going into a team and you're meeting your team for the first time, you're in the team meeting, you're sitting around the table, and they said, so Catherine, tell me about yourself. I wouldn't go into the same detail as I would when I was talking to my manager, but I wouldn't be as casual as if I was meeting another graduate. But at the same time, I want to illustrate what I bring to the team that's going to help the team be more successful and take the burden from the team, potentially some of the tasks that they might be feeling overwhelmed with or whatever, because you're being brought in to do certain tasks. So you want to talk about, well, my strengths are these things, and I'm passionate about these things, and I'm excited to be helping you with these things. You know, you start to adopt it, but you're still talking about the same thing. But then when you talk to a CEO, it's going to be much more formal. You're going to talk quickly, like not in pace, but in terms of you're going to say it as succinctly, because CEOs don't have a lot of time and they don't care too much about the detail. They just want to know high level why you're going to be successful in their business. So do you see how, whilst you're still using the same structure, you're using it and you're just changing the tone of voice, you're changing slightly what you're going to put in there, albeit it is still using the same structure. Does that all make sense? Is there any questions about any of that? Because we're coming to the end and I don't want you to walk away and go, I just didn't really get it. Either everybody's feeling a bit shy or I've absolutely nailed it and you completely get it. And I'm hoping it's the latter.
I mean, I love all of this because previously I'd heard of like elevator pitches and how like when you're someone in the industry and like you're going to go and talk to professionals and try to get a job, this is just something that everyone who's going to be good and ambitious is going to have one of these. But I had no idea what it actually consisted of. So I'm really, really glad that you've been able to give us like this really simple breakdown of like the statement, the summary, the background, and the goals. Like, it might take me a while to get the words right, but I think I could actually do this for myself and use it in my next job interview.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you got something out of it. Let me explain to you how important this is. So there was a study done, I think in 2016, and they did a study on hiring managers. 2,000 hiring managers were interviewed. And a third of them said they had made a hiring decision within an interview for whether they thought a candidate was a yes or a no within the first 90 seconds. So you imagine when you walk into the room, you come in, you meet everybody, you might shake hands, non-COVID, you sit down and then they say, oh, so Emma, tell us a bit about yourself. And that is your segue into your elevator pitch. So because it's only going to take 30 to 60 seconds, that first 90 seconds people have decided whether from your body language, the way that you've interacted and built rapport and then nailed your elevator pitch, a third of people have already made a hiring decision on you, on whether they're going to accept you as a good candidate or not. And let me tell you, as a recruiter, it is very hard to change a hiring manager's mind. Once they've made it, it is very hard to change it. So that's how critical that question can be, and that having your elevator pitch is going to be. So I'm glad, Courtney, that you understood, but that's how important it is. So I'm glad you got something from that. Any other questions from anybody? We've got a few more minutes. Or comments. Liana?
Yeah, we do have a question from Emma.
Sorry, Emma.
On the chat.
Oh, Emma, sorry. Let me just pull that over. Are there any tips you feel shy or something like? Oh,
Do you know what? So what you're talking, so the question is about being shy or not wanting to say something. And I know this feeling because I've been there myself. Let me say, this is about nerves. If you can control your nerves and get really like brave, the best tip I was ever given, and it's funny because Courtney was sharing that she was in the Defence Force, I actually got from somebody in the Defence Force, and it is to wiggle your toes. Now I'm thinking everybody's probably wiggling their toes. When you wiggle your toes, it changes what's going on in your body physiologically. So instead of the blood pumping really fast to your heart, it actually takes the blood away to the furthest part of your body, and you start to calm down. So that will lower your stress, and then it's just about being really brave and having a go. And let me say, once you've done it once, you actually, the second time's not as bad, and the third time gets easier, and then eventually you're doing what I'm doing and you're running webinars because you just don't have any of that fear anymore. But the toes, and actually it's something that they did. The reason why the person from Defence was because it's something that they did when they would take the men to war, and they'd be really nervous. So they'd be marching, the soldier would be marching into battle, and they would be like very nervous. So they would get them to wiggle their toes, and that's how it all came about. But it works beautifully. And if I'm doing any big keynote speak, I wiggle my toes beforehand because it actually does calm me down. So I hope that helps you, Emma. Maybe have a wiggle your toes and come off and be brave and have a go and just say yes.
Yeah.
Good girl. Good on you.
Thanks for the tip.
It is. I think it's just the more you do it, the better you'll get more confident at doing. Don't they say public speaking is the most feared thing, even higher than death? So people would prefer to die than speak to other people in public. It's amazing. Did that help, Emma?
Yep.
I also slightly have another opposite problem. I love talking to people and I love my customer service, and I also just love talking. So is there any tips if you're somebody that potentially talks too much?
So remember we were talking about body language at the beginning, the total message. So you need to start to read other people's body language. So if you're conveying 55%, you need to also be responding to what they're doing. Because if you're talking and people are like, or they're overwhelmed or they're disinterested. So just be mindful. And so that's where that, total message is really important, because it's not only one-sided. Yeah. Anything else? Because we're now probably at time. The last thing I just wanted to bring to you was when you're leaving, I'm hoping that you have at least one thing that you can grab hold of and take with you, and so that you can work with going on from today. I'm hoping that your elevator pitch is going to start to come together. And like I say, if you use that really simple formula, you'll be on the way to really setting yourself up for success, really.